looking at how the Mirage Drive sits in this Revolution 16 kayak. As standard, this rocks around a couple of mil, well more than probably about 20 mil back and forth at the end of the cranks. Obviously it rocks forward and stays forward, but I don't like that amount of rock. So the first thing that I've done to make it a little bit more steady in the drive is I've put a couple of little pieces on the bottom, one each side. See, the one at the back is slightly thicker than the one at the front. That's because these boats suffer from squat, so if anything you want to angle the drive to pull the bow down as much as possible rather than try and create lift with it. So that's the first thing we do, and then we see that there's a bit of a gap around the drive, which if I can just get it in with one hand. There we go. So we've got this quite a considerable gap all the way around the drive. Obviously there'll be water sluicing around inside there and in the drive well, so we need to seal this as best we can without actually sealing the drive permanently into the boat obviously, but we can create a silicone gasket for that quite easily. So here's our drive clicked in. It's impossible to click it any lower than that with the click and go brackets. They're not adjustable in height at all. So to get it solid like it is now, I've had to put little spacers. So, I mean, it always would have been bad, but now it's even worse. So we're over 10 mil deep to where the sort of, Hobie have built a bit of a plate to stop too much water sluicing around in there. There's a lot of gaps around the plate. So, yeah, what we're going to aim to do is create a gasket that finishes flush with the boat, which we can do with silicone sealant and scraper. We just got to mask all of the drive. We've got to make sure that these everything that moves can move okay without quite touching the silicone, but we can make it an awful lot tighter than that is. Just going around it with a pencil so we've got an idea of where we want the masking tape height to go to. Partway through masking, I've made little squares of wood out of this. I think it's about 1 mil, 1.5 mil plywood, just to put over where the chains are, so that it all will become clear later, but just taped over, just to allow that extra tiny bit of clearance for the chains to move, so that it doesn't all move and the masking come off. I've just cable tied the cranks together for a minute. I'm not actually going to bother taking the fins off, I don't think it's necessary. Right, so there we go. I've gone round it and created a sort of flange of tape. I've used the shiny back fine line type masking tape, because it's the back of it actually that the silicone's going to be sticking to. That should peel off silicone quite nicely. It's very, very shiny stuff. Nothing really sticks to it. So we'll stick that through and see how that looks and see whether we can... Oh, also, I've given the bits of the boat that the silicone's going to be stuck to at the bottom of the drive well, a good wipe with thinners, just so the silicone will stick to it reasonably well. Right, we've gone round periphery of it with some other masking tape, so the silicone's going to be the thickness of the masking tape, so I'm going to scrape it flat with the hole all the way round, just checking that there's nowhere that it's going to create a bond. I suppose we need to worry a little bit about down these tubes, but I think as long as I don't keep pouring loads down there, it's quite thick. Should stop quite nicely. So I think, yeah, it should form quite a reasonable shape, and hopefully won't stick the drive in there forever. If it does, obviously silicone, it's only a knife down the side to get it out, but I think it should work alright. there's our little bridging pieces, just to create the enough chain movement so that the chain definitely won't be grinding through silicon. Right, so I've got it all on there. It's really thick, it's quite cold night, so it took both hands to squeeze it very slowly out of the tube. Obviously that all needs smoothing down. The stuff I've used is this Sikaflex EBT. So it's an adhesive sealant and filler. It's important that it's an adhesive sealant rather than just a silicone, because I don't think silicone would stick very well to this this kayak material. Basically nothing sticks to, so yeah, I don't know how long it'll last, but hopefully with it being an adhesive, maybe better than if it was just a sealant. I'd have been better off doing this when it wasn't 8 o'clock at night and 5 degrees centigrade, but because it's sort of come out a little bit lumpy. I'm going to get a little heater underneath it and hopefully accelerate it going off. That Sikaflex EBT's either got a very short shelf life and it's gone off, or I just couldn't get the temperature up enough, because it's yeah, it's not gone off properly. It's still not there sort of 12 hours later, so I'm going to try something else. So that we get a good release, I've just been round all of the back of this shiny red masking tape with sealant remover, so that should allow a clean release. After the failure of the Sika adhesive sealant, I've done it with some frame silicone, supposed to last 25 years, trade only, yeah, whatever, so just need to smooth that out. I'm just going to use a credit card and just gently smooth that along. Ten minutes later and it's already skinning over, so I'm going to pull the masking tape off. I'm going to go paddleboarding for an hour out on the river, then by the time I get back I should be almost ready to break out the mould. Here we are the next day, all nice and solid, or as solid as it's going to get this time of year. Just a quick note to say that I left a little piece of that, it was about here, sticking up 45 degrees like that, just so I had something to get hold of. I'm quite glad I did that, because that means that this is now sort of peeling off. And it might break, but it's peeling because of the with an upward pull. You see how that's sort of not destroying the sealant too badly, yet it's breaking the seal. So we'll get that off and see how it looks. I've left it a couple of days because it's been cold, and it's fully gone off now, so we got this sort of nice rubber gasket that's exactly the right shape for our fin to just poke through, for our drive, sorry, to just poke through. So I think that should be a bit more efficient. So have a look at it with the drive in. So there we are. The drive still goes until it hits the hole, as it always used to, because there's enough flexibility in the rubber to allow it to compress. So all gain, I would say, and no potential downside. I mean, it might sort of start peeling off because nothing really sticks to HDPE. But, you know, if it comes off after a month, then we'll just do it again. So that's that. I'll take it out in the water. I don't think I'll notice a difference, but it's psychologically going to be a lot better. I've also been able to draw now inside the silicone onto this little piece of board, and I've got a perfect pattern now for the drive well. So if subsequently that sealant doesn't last and doesn't stick, then I'll just cut something like through like a thin plastic material that's sort of stiff enough but will conform to the hole and also bend a bit where the drives need to move. I'll just cut a sheet of that a bit bigger and tape that to the hole if I need to, but we'll see how the silicone lasts. I also took the opportunity to make this plaster of Paris cast of the drive well. Just had to take the clips off the inside seal that go to the insides here. So now I've got a male mould that I can perhaps vacuum bag, carbon and epoxy. It'll need finishing a bit before I do that, and painting. But eventually I'll be able to take a model. I've done a separate video about this, which I'll upload separately. But yeah, so now I've got the ability as well to put the drive in a faster hole altogether, so something a bit narrower and longer.